Hi, I'm Eli Aguilar, and I'm very happy that you are here to practice Yin with me. Today, I have prepared a class that is specifically to target the hips, even though in Yin, the hips are always present because majority of the poses we practice in a seated position, but we vary so we can also explore the knees, the hips, sometimes the shoulder and the arms. Today is specifically for the hips. So let's start. For this class, you may not need any prop, but I always ask you at the beginning if you feel that you need a blanket or a cushion to sit on. Maybe the blanket because we're gonna have our knees, our feet pressing against the floor. You may wanna have something like this. Other than that, I don't think you will need anything else. So find what is available for you and then find a comfortable seated position. We just take a few moments here to close our eyes and to connect with the breath. Taking a few moments to let go everything that we don't need for the practice. We don't need expectations. We don't need the ego to tell us to go anywhere. We just need to be grounded, to be present, to observe what is arising, either in the body or the mind. We just need to be aware of signals of discomfort or pain, knowing that the discomfort is welcome, pain is not. So if at any point you feel pain, please come out of the pose, modify, wait for a moment, choose any of the options that I have presented before, and then come back to the pose. In Yin, we have the space of silence, we have time to pay attention of these little changes that sometimes when we practice more active, dynamic styles of yoga, we don't pay attention, but in Yin, we have the space and the time to observe and to make decisions. Only a few more moments here. Observing your natural pattern of breathing, no need to change anything. Just perhaps having the same length in the inhalation, in the exhalation. And maybe even making your exhalation a bit longer to use the effect, the calming effect of the exhalation to help us to feel more grounded, more present. Do it very gently, softly opening your eyes. We will find a first pose, and this is where I probably suggest you, if you're not used to press the dorsal of your feet against the floor, you may have a blanket for that. Sometimes when we are not used to these poses, we tend to be a little bit sensitive, especially because our feet are most of the time in dorsiflexion. We are standing. It's very rare that we have our feet in plantar flexion, which is this movement that we're doing right now, pressing against the torso. So for some of you, you're new in the practice of Yin, it may be a bit discomfort there. You may feel some discomfort there. So you may want to have the blanket underneath your feet. Otherwise, you can stay here, close your eyes. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm not changing any position. It will be here for about 2 minutes. So you can rest your hands on your thighs. You can have one hand on top of the other one. Sinking lower, feeling how your body weight press against your feet. This is what we want. We're compressing the toes, the ankles, the knees to stimulate to, when we release the pose, we will help that area to get fresh blood, new oxygen, nutrients to move the energy around those areas. So a few moments here in silence, observing what is arising, perhaps using the sounds around me, around you, to help you to focus in the present moment. I'm in the jungle of India right now, so you may hear a lot of animals around me. So perhaps using those sounds to be present, to allow your mind to be hearing now. A few more moments. And softly we're going to start releasing the pose, coming into tabletop. So we will come into tabletop to release the ankles, to release the feet. Moving into the other pose, we're going to be working on the one side first before moving to the other side. So we're going to bring the right foot forward. And we're going to do a variation of a dragon where actually you want to let go of the knee. So you soften your leg so the knee goes out. We are on the edge of the right foot. Options, this is again if you want to use the blanket for your knee, so you can place the blanket underneath in case you feel some sensitivity there. Options for your hands, you can stay with both hands on the floor. You can come to your forearms, both forearms, and keep dropping the knee. Or if you want to add a twist, you can come on the forearm, the left forearm, and place your hand softly. I'm not pushing the knee here or even on your waist. So this is it's called winged dragon, dragon with wings. So you can use that and add the twist if you want. So please choose a variation that works for you. We will be in this variation of dragon for about 2 minutes as well. Once you have found your place, commit to stillness. You can close your eyes. With your head, if you have been practicing with me for a while, you know that you can choose to keep it aligned with the rest of your spine. You can drop it down. You can even gaze down. For me, gazing down feels more comfortable in my neck. I will let you know when 1 minute is gone so you can vary the position of your hands. Maybe the one that you chose at the beginning is not working anymore. So we can change the arms, but hopefully maintaining the same position in the legs, in the hips. Remember, this is the target area of this class. So we want to bring the majority of the stress to that area. So 1 minute is remaining. You can change your arms if you need to. And then stay there in stillness. Feel how the gravity and the time brings you deeper into the pose. Observing how the weight of your knee, of your leg, is giving space to your hips. And a hip joint, a joint that is in nature strong, stable, tight. A few more seconds. And gently, you can bring your torso upright. We will keep working on the right leg. So now you're going to gently, you can actually help your foot with your hand. Move your foot to the left, coming into Swan pose. So again, options here. You can have your right foot very close to your groin or far away. Your knee can be more in or more out, depending on how those changes feel in your knee. And we're gonna be in Swan pose. The difference between swan pose and sleeping swan is that the torso remains upwards. So you can place your hands just as a support for your torso. Again, we're not pulling, we're not pushing. And keep your hips aligned, so we're not dropping the weight on either side. Your hip most likely will be same as mine, off the floor. Perhaps is closer to the floor or farther away. Just give that space. We don't need to prop these spaces. It's quite common when people are not familiar with the practice of yin to prop joints that are up in the air, thinking that this will protect the knee. This is kind of like what one of the misconceptions that people have when we don't understand anatomy of movement quite well. The knee won't get hurt because your hip is up in the air. Your knee will respond to the external rotation of the hip joint, depending on what the hip joint is doing or not doing. So that's why we find different placements for the foot, for the knee, to accommodate all these two joints to the range of motion that we have in the external rotation of the hip joint. But this distance is actually the part where the gravity is allowing the posture to take us deeper. If we prop the hip, we don't have anywhere to go. So just a little knowledge of anatomy and the mechanic of the poses, which is what I teach in my programs and in the courses, can change the way that we practice and also the way that we teach if you are or want to become a Yin Yoga teacher. Okay, good. I'm pretty sure you're also feeling in your left hip. We have been working with that left hip also for a while now, and the extension. Good. So we're gonna now start shifting your body weight to the right, very gently, bringing your left foot forward. Oh, it's a good release for the left hip. And keep the right knee bent. We're gonna continue working on this side. You're gonna now bring your right leg on top. So options for this right leg: either you can have your ankle on top of your knee. This is one option. You want to bring it closer, perhaps on top of the left knee, and your right foot can be closer to your hip or farther away. Again, depends on what is happening in the external rotation of the hip. So once we have this half shoelace in any variation that you have chosen, we can start coming forward. If you're experiencing tightness in any of the muscles that are involved in this flexion and you need to sit on something, if you have the blanket, you can roll it and place it on underneath your sit bones, so that helps with the anterior tilt that you need in the forward fold and the flexion that we're having in the hip joint. And then we let go the torso. The head can be aligned with the spine, or you could drop it down. You can close your eyes, or you can find a focal point. Hopefully, ideally, is that we close the eyes. This is one of the poses when people start looking at the pedicure. We don't want to distract our mind. Remember, yin is a practice to go inwards, to go inside, to be aware, to be present. So I always will invite you to close your eyes. Perhaps enjoying the happy rooster we have in the background. The birds, the sea. I don't know if you can hear the sea. I'm shooting this class in Sampoorna yoga in Goa. So the nature I have around me is very dense. We have 1 more minute in this pose. Perhaps observing how your torso, your tissues in your lower back, your glutes, your hips start feeling a bit different. Tingling sensations, pins and needles are quite normal, quite common to feel. Remember, we are compressing structures against structures, bones against bones, bones against muscles, muscle against muscle. So we are restricting, while we are in the pose and we compress, we are restricting the flow of blood, of water, of oxygen. So by the time that we let go, we encourage the rush of all that back into the areas that we were compressing. Good. So we let go of the pose, bringing the torso upright. Again, we will continue having the right leg as it is flexed. Now we're gonna flex the left knee and bring the foot as close as possible to the hip, but make sure that you have both hips on the floor. And we will do a twist only for a minute. So we will hug with the left hand, we will hug the right knee. With the right hand, we'll come behind. So it's a bit more active in the arms and the torso. We're not pushing and pulling, we're just supporting the pose with the arms. But we want to feel that nice stretch that is coming from the gluteus medius, on the lateral side of the hip. And why not, we're also including the spine. Today we're targeting, as I said, the hips, and the hips can do 6 movements. So for all those movements, we need muscles. So we have muscles in front, in the back, in the lateral side, in the medial side of the hip joint. So it's important that we work with all those tissues, all those tendons and ligaments all around. So we provide the space and the mobility that the hip needs. Good. So very softly, we will let go of the twist. And to finish with this side, because as you see, we have been working with this, we're gonna come to the opposite movement. We have been doing a lot of external rotation. So now we're going to extend the left knee and we're going to bring the right foot, but now this time on the outside. Because on the outside, we are doing now internal rotation. And from this internal rotation, we're gonna start moving again forward. So options for this, actually we have 2 options and I want you to decide. So you can open your legs as wide as you need. You can bring in closer as they need. Since the hips are not in the same line, when you move this leg, the hip will move. We can come in between the legs. So you will feel different sensations in your legs, or you can come over the leg. So choose the variation that works for you. I will come over the leg. Again, targeting different muscles of the hip joint in different angles. So you can choose to stay in between the legs or towards the left leg, and keeping your torso soft. When we come to the leg, the sensation is more towards the hamstring of the left leg. If you come more to the side, you will feel it also in the muscles of the right leg. So choose what is needed for you today. Definitely my hamstrings and my glutes today, they need a little bit of a stretch. And then once we have found the place, the asana that is effective for us, meaning that is targeting the areas that we need to touch with those asanas, we come to stillness. We make the intention to be in a stillness. The less we move the body, the less the muscles need to work. so the stress of the posture can travel deeper to other types of connective tissue. Good. And we start coming out of the pose, stopping in the center. And now we have another side to go. That was the right side. Now we have to go to the left side. So to come to the other side, let's come back into tabletop. This is where we started. Try to move as slow, maybe slower than you think you should move, because in the end it's important how we get in the pose and how we get out of the pose. Good. So we start with the dragon. So bring your left foot to the front. Remember that in this variation of dragon, we want to be on the edge of the foot. So you want to allow that knee to drop down. Variations for your hands. Your hands can be both inside of your foot, holding your torso upright. We can come to the forearms. That is another option, and I'm giving you the options again because not necessarily you will do exactly the same variation in both sides. Or the other option was to stay on the right forearm and twist. So you're adding this twist. Your left hand is soft against your hand, your leg. Honestly, it's only resting there. It's not actively pushing. Remember that in the end, we don't want to actively place the body in any direction, in any position. So we have different options. You are the one who knows which one is not too much, is not too little, it's just right. You have 1 more minute to go in case you need to change the position of the arms. But let's try to keep the same shape in your legs, in your hip. Using the muscles of your chest to keep your torso stable and strong, but keeping the muscles of your legs, your glutes, your hips relaxed. Time is up. So bring your torso upright if you were not there, and start moving your left foot towards the right side. Again, remember, we can have it in a 90-degree angle if that suits your hips. You can bring it more towards you. Your knee can go in or can go out. That depends on the external rotation that you have in your hip and how your knee responds to that. And we stay in our hands. Today we're practicing Swan pose. When it's, as I said before, the sleeping swan is when the torso goes all the way down. But today we actually want to use that space. I'm just coming back to the mat. I was out of the mat. We want to use the space that probably, most likely, majority of us will have between the glute and the floor. Just keep the hips soft, feeling the weight of your body, pushing your body down, taking your body deeper. We are not only stimulating your left hip, but also the right hip in the front. So today we're doing flexion, extension, internal rotation and external rotation with some abduction here and there. Those are 5 out of the 6 movements that the hip can do. And we want to stimulate all the muscles, tendons, ligaments involved in those movements. Keeping our hips healthy, mobile, resilient is very important, because even though in nature they are tight, they need to support 2/3 of our weight. They also have to support the shock coming from the feet. So they need to be strong, flexible, mobile, resilient. So we grow older with healthy hips. Awesome. Time's up. It's the moment to give a break, especially to the right hip. So we're gonna shift our body weight to the left and very gently moving your right leg forward. We will come to this variation of half shoelace pose. So options: your left foot on top of your thigh. You can stay here. You can bring it closer, as close as it will go. Maybe this is enough. Or you can bring your left knee on top of the right. Your right foot is relaxed. We're not holding the leg in any particular direction, and we stay here for 3 minutes. Coming, bringing your torso forward. Keeping your hands just for support. Letting go your toes, the right toes. Especially now, after pandemic, I was discussing this with the students of the teacher training course, that especially after pandemic, our bodies are going to change even more. If we already lived in an era of spending a lot of time in front of a screen, after pandemic, I think that has increased. A lot of us have adopted a job, a work when you are seated. A lot of us work from home. Online jobs have exploded, and I believe they're gonna stay. So the amount of time that we spend seated on a chair, it's a lot. So when we spend a lot of time in that position, our hips, especially the front part of the hips, start becoming weak and tight, which are not tight. It's not necessarily synonymous of strong. It can be tight and weak. So more than now before, we need to pay attention to our hips. Come back up. Keep the right knee as it is, the left knee, and bring the right knee, flexing the right knee to bring your right foot behind you. And we're gonna hug the left knee with your right arm. 1 minute in this twist. Trying to keep both sit bones on the floor. So I was saying, more than ever before, we need to make sure that we give to our body what it needs. And since the hips are tight in nature, plus the activities that we're doing now, We need to give them mobility, flexibility, strength. So being active, running, cycling, lifting weights, practicing vinyasa, ashtanga, any dynamic style of yoga is great. With that, you create stability and strength, but also we need to think in the deeper connective tissues, the tendons, the bones, the joints, the ligaments, and we cannot stimulate those in an active way. So this is when the practice of yin comes extremely handy and important. Perfect. So we let go of the twist, extending the right leg, and now we're gonna shift our body weight to the right, bending the knee now, bringing the femur into internal rotation to place your left foot next to your hips. Options to go in between the legs or coming over the right leg, and to flex forward. If you're feeling some discomfort in the knee, just make sure that you move the knee out or in. That may help you. That may change the stress, because it depends. The knee depends on what is happening to the hip. The hip is the one who has to create the internal rotation. If, depending on the range of that motion in the hip joint, the knee and the ankles are affected. It's a kinetic chain, so they will be affected in those movements. So just move your knee out and see if that helps to release the discomfort in the knee. If you're feeling some stretch in the front of your left knee, sometimes people get a little scared for that stretch. Well, actually, this is what we're aiming to do. We're flexing the knee so the anterior, the muscles and the tissues in the front of the knee are getting stretched. Everything is welcome as long as it doesn't hurt. It's not causing pain. A few more moments. And we start preparing our exit from the pose, bringing our torso upright. Extending the left knee very gently. Remember that we are stimulating tissues. They're hard, they're plastic, they're static. They don't like to be moved in a dynamic way. So we need to be patient. We need to move slow because they feel sensitive. This is the short-term effect of the yin practice. You feel all mushy and sensitive and soft. That's okay. That's good. Just be mindful how you move, and that will create in the long term, that will create that resilience that we're looking for in these postures. Good. So we're going to come to the floor. And again, I'm going to give you options. We're going to be doing some things with the legs. So we can do the eye of the needle, which is this pose when you have your foot on top of your knee. So in this case, the right foot on top of your right knee. You can stay here. You can grab your leg either on your thigh or your shin, or you can do the reclined shoelace, same that we did on the floor, now with both legs. So your right knee on top of the left one, and we're gonna go and grab our feet with our hands. Wherever you are, just relax. 2 minutes in this reclined shoelace, this time using the weight of the arms and the gravity to bring our legs closer, the feet closer to us. lengthening and stretching the lateral muscles of the hip joint, the gluteus medius, a muscle that gets very strong and tight, especially when we walk, when we run. I hope you have learned something about the hip joint. I've been almost giving a lecture of anatomy of the hip today. If you have trained with me, of practiced with me, you know that I love anatomy, and my classes are centered in the anatomy of movement, the anatomy of the body. Few more seconds. This nice stretch. At least it's nice for me. I hope you're feeling good sensations as well. Good. So for the next pose, actually, we will go to the next pose from here. So it's a transition to cat pulling its tail. So we will keep the right knee on top of the right leg on top. We will start shifting our legs to the left, but they're in this position. So hopefully you can keep grabbing your left foot, and if you can, if it's available, you can extend your right leg. Otherwise, you can just hold your left hand on your knee and drop your knee down to the floor. So if you want to try and see how it goes, you can extend your right leg and hold the twists with this. It's like a pretzel in your body, basically. We will be here for a while. You can gaze over your right or over your left shoulder, or gaze up. With this pose, we encourage to stretch the quads in the bottom leg, and the hamstrings and the glutes on the top leg. Moving the hips in different directions as well. Keeping your body as soft as possible, just with enough activation to hold your feet or your knees. A few more moments. And very softly undoing the pose, letting go of your feet if you were holding the feet, coming back to the center, and we will go to the other leg. So we will start with either the eye of the needle or the half shoelace. So options for eye of the needle, remember, foot down on the floor, hugging your thigh, hugging your shin, or bringing your left knee on top of the right one, holding your feet. 2 minutes here. The shoulders can be down on the floor. Maybe they're not on the floor, but they are heavy going towards the floor. Using these last poses to help you to come inwards, to calm the mind. If you find yourself wandering around, perhaps going back to the breath, see if you are taking the same time to inhale and exhale, lengthening perhaps the exhalation, always through the nose. And using the breath to help you to stay here in the present. About 20 seconds to go. Observe if the poses change for you. It has for me. Very subtle changes, but when you are present, you may witness those changes. And softly, we're going to release the pose, because remember, we're going to keep the legs in a similar position. We're going to start bringing the left down towards the right side this time. So we hold the right leg with the left foot. This is like playing twister. And you can hold your hand on the outside of your knee, bring the knee down. This is one option. Or you can extend the leg and hold the outside of your foot. This also helps us to stretch all the lateral side of the leg, the iliotibial band, a big piece of fascia that we have from the lateral side of the hip to the knee. Practicing Yin is like massaging the body from the inside out. We touch those deep parts of ourselves that otherwise it will be hard to target with other styles of yoga, with other disciplines of exercises. Few more moments. And very mindfully start releasing the pose, bringing your legs back to the center. We're gonna come to the last pose. So both knees come to the chest and hugging the knees. Allowing the torso, the head, the shoulders to be heavy on the floor. Using that weight, that gravity to bring your knees closer to your chest. Compressing the hip joint in the front, lengthening, opening in the back. But also compressing your thighs against your stomach, giving yourself a nice squeeze. Feeling your back heavy against the floor. Few more breaths here. And softly we prepare for Shavasana, letting go our legs. Opening your legs as wide as the mat, allowing the toes and knees to move softly in any direction that feel natural. Opening your hands, resting your shoulders, releasing, relaxing, softening, closing your eyes, having your face soft and relaxed. We'll stay here for a few minutes. You can stay a bit longer, otherwise I will guide you out of the pose in a few moments. Softly bring the awareness back to your toes and your fingers, allowing those little movements to awaken your hands, your feet, your arms, and your legs. Extending and stretching your body, flexing your knees to roll onto one side, either side, just to help you to come back to a comfortable seated position. Moving slowly. Remember that we are in a very heavy grounding energy right now. I always feel kind of like spacey when I practice, and I'm always practicing with you, so I feel what you're feeling right now. So take it easy, move slowly when you're going back to your activities, and I will meet you back on the mat very soon, I hope. Thank you so much. Well done. If you made it this far, your hips might be feeling open, healthy, and loved. If so, let me know by clicking the like button below, and also remember that there are many more classes in the hip opening playlist. Go and check them out. Also, after so many years of teaching in yoga teacher training courses, I have learned that when it comes to poses, it's not necessarily how it looks, but how it feels. And for this, I created the Hips and Knees program. If you're ready to have healthy hips that are going to support your knees and forget about that idea of protecting your knees in yoga practice, this program is for you. To have more information and to sign up in this program, click the first link you will find below this video. And if you have any question, any comment, let me know and I will be happy to reply. Thank you and see you very soon on the other side of the screen.